Hey everyone, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in this video I'll show you how to assemble the houses in my folk art village cut file collection. Today I'll be assembling house number 1 from the collection, but all of the houses are assembled in exactly the same way, so once you've seen the step-by-step for one, you'll know how to assemble all of the houses. Okay, so here I've cut all of the pieces for my house using my Silhouette Cameo. In each file you'll have the house front, the house back, an optional roof layer, and then you'll have optional pieces that you can cut from vellum or another translucent paper to cover the window openings. In the file, there will only be one of the pieces that will cover the window openings on the sides of the house, and you'll just cut 2 of those, one for each side. A few of the houses also have cutout details in the roof area, and for those houses, a piece is also included in the cut file that you can use to cover the openings on the roof. All of the supplies that I use in this video will be listed in the description area below, so you can check that out. First, I'll grab the pieces for the front and back of the house. The 2 pieces will attach together at the tab on the left side of the front of the house, like this. I want to attach the vellum pieces to the interior of the house, so I'll flip both of these pieces over. To adhere the vellum pieces over the window openings on the house, first I'll add liquid glue all around the interior of the house front piece. Be sure to add glue to all of the little nooks and crannies in the design so there won't be flaps and areas that are separated from the vellum when the house is assembled. Adding the glue will take a few minutes, so be sure to use a glue that's not quick drying. I've really been liking this Nuvo Deluxe adhesive lately. It has a nice small tip and doesn't dry too fast, so when you work with it you have a little bit of wiggle room before it dries. After you add the glue, line up the vellum piece for the front of the house and press it in place to adhere. I like to run my hand over it a few times while pressing down firmly to make sure all of those little pieces adhere to the vellum. If you notice that any areas of cardstock on the front of the house have slid out of place, just flip the piece over and use your finger to gently move them back into place. After I'm finished with the front of the house, I'll repeat the process of adding glue and then pressing the vellum pieces in place for both sides of the house. After you've glued all of the vellum pieces in place, you may notice that the moisture from the glue has started to soften and slightly warp either the cardstock or the vellum. My cardstock is heavy enough that it's very subtle, but if your cardstock is obviously warping, then you can place the pieces under something heavy like a coffee table book or 2 while it dries so it dries flat. Then you can assemble the house when the pieces are completely dry. To assemble the house, first I'll bend the tab at the top of the house front piece along the score lines, and then I'm going to come in with some 1/4-inch score tape. Score tape is my favorite double-sided adhesive to use for 3D pieces because it's a dry adhesive, so it's a strong instant bond and gives great stability to any 3D project. I'll add a piece of the score tape all along the tab at the top of the house front. Then I'll remove the protective paper from the adhesive and line up the top of the roof of the house back piece over the tab, pressing in place to adhere. Next, I'll attach the optional roof piece. This piece can add color and contrast to your house, but it's optional, so if you want a simple white or one-color house, you don't need to use it. I'll use 5/8" score tape to cover the back of the roof piece, and I want to make sure to get it pretty close to the edges, especially the top and bottom edges, so there won't be a gap that can flap up when it's attached to the house. Also, be sure that you don't add adhesive over the area in the center with the score line, or you'll have a hard time bending it later. If you're using liquid glue for this and you'll be placing something heavy on top of the house pieces so they dry flat like I mentioned earlier, you can wait until you're done attaching the roof and just place the whole piece under something heavy to dry. Okay, once I've covered the back of the roof piece with adhesive, I'll peel off the protective paper and line the piece up over top of the roof area on the base of the house, and then I'll press it in place and bend the roof in the center along the score line. Next, I'll bend along all of the score lines on the house base, and then I'll add the 1/4-inch score tape to all of the tabs on the base. After I finish that, I'll remove the protective paper from the score tape on just the angled tab that's next to the roof on the house front. I'll fold the tab inward and line it up with the front of the roof line, and I'll press in place on both the interior and exterior to make sure everything is solidly adhered. Then I'll remove the protective paper from the score tape on the other angled tab and repeat the process with the other side of the roof. And after that, I'll remove the protective paper from the tab that runs along the side of the house front piece, and I'll adhere the front of the house to the side at the corner here. So the front of the house is done, and now we just need to assemble the back of the house. Since there's less space to work in on this side because the front of the house is assembled, I like to remove the protective paper for all of the tabs on the back first before putting it together because it just makes it easier to maneuver everything into place. After I've removed the protective paper, I'll line up one of the angled tabs along the roof line and press it in place, and then repeat the process for the other angled tab, just like we did on the front of the house. To finish the house, adhere the tab that runs along the side of the house back piece to the front piece at the corner. Now all you need to do to light this house up is to get either a battery-operated tea light or some fairy lights and place the house on top. One more thing that I want to show you is how I adhere the roof pieces for the houses that have cutout details. First, I cover the back of the piece with the 5/8 inch score tape, just like I did for the other house. Then I'll remove the protective paper from the adhesive, and I'll add liquid glue in the areas that have the cutout details since I can't use the score tape in those areas. Next, I'll line the roof piece over the roof area on the house base and press it in place to adhere. Since the liquid glue doesn't create an instant bond like the score tape does, I like to give the glue some extra time to dry before folding the roof at the score line because if the glue is still too wet when you score the roof piece, the roof may start to lift from the base in the areas that have the liquid glue. So just give it a few extra minutes of dry time before folding. I hope that you found this video to be helpful in putting together your folk art village. You can find a full list of supplies used for the houses in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. If you liked this video, it would be great if you gave it a thumbs up and considered subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.